Cave Story is the best Metroidvania ever. Now, I've played quite a few Metroidvanias, and this is way different from what I've seen. It also probably set a standard for indie games and the market surrounding them. But after seeing this game, it was just so good. For this review, I played the original Cave Story, even though I have Cave Story Plus on Steam from the game sharing thing, and Cave Story Plus on Epic Games. I played the original version. I also got the secret ending. Let's get into it. The story of Cave Story starts with the protagonist stumbling into a village filled with little bunny rabbit creatures called Mimigas, and follows the protagonist discovering new areas leading to new scenarios and situations throughout the game. When it comes to gameplay, the controls are very interesting. The character is very airy, but controls well despite that. When it comes to using weapons, you aim in the direction you are moving, but you can aim while moving by using a diagonal direction. Although seeming limited, this does not work bad in practice. It is skill-based yet powerful. The weapon selection is also a big part of Cave Story. There are a few secret weapons which mostly come as trades. The first gun you obtain is a decent tap-firing weapon called the Polar Star. However, it is the biggest weapon because of its involvement throughout the game. Later on, you can give it to the guy you stole it from and upgrade it into the Spur, arguably the best weapon in the game considering its main use and power. However, there's another trade for the Polar Star, the machine gun from Curly Brace. This is a decent weapon, however not recommended unless you're speedrunning. Then there's the Snake, which can be obtained by trading the Polar Star and Fireball, which is a gravity-affected weapon that spawns small bouncing fireballs. It can also do good damage, but can also be lacking in some areas. The Spur is the best out of all of these because it negates the downsides of the leveling system. Now, what is the leveling system? Well, basically, all weapons have 3 stages, level 1, level 2, and level 3, with level 3 typically being the strongest. To increase the level of a weapon, you have to collect little yellow triangles, typically dropped from enemies. However, when you take damage, you start dropping down the level of the weapon. This mechanic basically puts incentive on taking as little damage as possible to maintain high damage, which I like. It's also not very intrusive because of how boss fights work. Now, while boss fights are very similar to the typical experience, bosses typically are accompanied by many smaller enemies that drop pickups such as health missiles and the aforementioned yellow triangle experience points. This makes it more strategy-based, as you have to learn how you can use the replenishment of resources to your advantage. When it comes to the story of Cave Story, it is very intricate and deep. This is one of the best stories ever in video game history. It portrays so many different tropes, subjects, and situations, and tragedies and good times. If you're watching this video and haven't played Cave Story, I recommend you go ahead and play the free version now, as I did. Now, here's another point of interest that is very apparent but sets apart Cave Story from the regular story-based game. It is very obscure and secretive. Oftentimes, you can feel stuck in the story, unsure where to go, but to progress, it requires context noting and exploration. While this can seem like a downside, to me, it seems quite special. It reminds me of games like Fez, which I will talk about in another video. Now, here's a big part for me that changed my experience compared to others. Cave Story was not that hard. I finished Cave Story in 6 hours. That included the secret ending, which only took about an hour to achieve. So base game Cave Story only took me about 5 hours to beat. When looking around online, I heard people took weeks or even months to beat the game. Cave Story was honestly not that hard, and maybe I'm a god gamer or something, but I don't want to be egotistical. I felt like it was a fun challenge though, just not as hard as people had said it was. But for the more laid-back gamer, I would assume that Cave Story would be a much bigger challenge than it was to me. So far, it seems like Cave Story clears in everything. But Cave Story doesn't just clear, it goes beyond. Cave Story has an amazing one-of-a-kind soundtrack, unique to nothing else I've seen. This stuff has been in my head for the past week and will not get out for probably another few. And that's how you know the soundtrack is good. I mean, this game had its own DAW. No wonder the music is so good, and the graphics are like eye candy. They're simplistic, yet there's abundance of detail in everything. And well, this is a legendary game. I was always going to play it, but when I saw it in the Pwnage.dev repo, I had to give it a try on my iPad mini 1st generation. This is an amazing game, and is essentially quite an experience. One of the best experiences ever. If you're looking to play Cave Story, buy Cave Story Plus on PC, or buy it on Switch, which has the most features. I believe you could even play the Switch version on PC with help of an unofficial program. which I might try if I ever get the chance. Also, I usually don't mention this, but Cave Story has quite an incredible beta. Just watch the videos I've linked in the description. It is crazy to imagine that the beta is what Cave Story could have potentially been at some point. I really wish someday that it could end up servicing. I'd make a whole video on it if I ever got to play it. And to end this video off, all I have to say is 5 years of work to make this amazing game really shows. I will never forget the impact this game has left on me, and it is one of the best games ever.